Welcome to Life After 40 Conversations with Philip Blackett. This is a space for honest, thoughtful conversations about midlife, without the hype, without diagnosis, and without pressure. If you're somewhere between 35 and 55 years old and quietly navigating questions about your energy, your identity, your work, your faith, your relationships, or your health, you're not alone. Midlife can often look stable on the outside and feel unsettled underneath. Life After 40 Conversations exist to do one thing well: to give adults in midlife the language, the clarity, and the calm perspective for a season that can often feel confusing, lonely, or silently overwhelming. This show exists to help you feel seen and steady and less alone as you navigate the second half of life. Now, bear in mind, this is not a self-help program. It's not a medical show, and it's not a motivational pep rally. What this is a meaning-making space. Each episode is a grounded conversation with myself, alongside leaders, caregivers, entrepreneurs, pastors, parents, professionals, and thoughtful human beings who are living through midlife in real time, just like you and me. We reflect on lived experiences without issuing prescriptions with peer pressure. Because I believe in this deeply. Midlife is worth living and worth living well. And living it well does not start with pressure, it starts with perspective. So if you ever thought to yourself, why does this season feel different? Or why am I rethinking things that used to feel settled before? You're exactly where you're supposed to be. And I'm grateful that you're here. So let's begin today's conversation. My guest today is Ralph Brewer, an author, speaker, and founder of Help for Men. Ralph is the author of Rebuilt, the complete guide to starting over as a man. Also, The Dead Bedroom Fix, Divorce Panic, Red Flags, and Real Talk, No BS Life Advice for Young Men. His work has been read and listened to by hundreds and thousands of men around the world. Through his writing, his podcast, and his global men's community, Ralph has become one of the most trusted voices helping men navigate the modern landscape of relationships, masculinity, and personal transformation. Now, his journey started the hard way. After going through a painful divorce and personal collapse more than a decade ago, Ralph found himself questioning everything: his role as a man, as a father, and a partner. And so what began as his own process of rebuilding evolved into an international movement. And today, his message reaches hundreds of thousands of men each week through his books, his videos, and the growing Help for Men organization. Ralph, welcome to Life After 40 Conversations.
Well, thank you so much for having me. What an intro. Thank you.
Absolutely, sir. So happy to get started with the first question. So we just shared your introduction with our audience here. And so just want to hear in your own words, before the titles, the books, the resumes, who is Ralph in this season of life?
In this season of life. Well, I guess it's hard to describe. I can define my particular season as post 50. I have just turned 50 years of age as of several months ago.
Okay.
So that's kind of a big milestone. So
Happy
I think it is
belated.
safe to say that I have more years behind me than I do ahead of me, probably. Statistically and going by my family genetics. Yeah, most definitely. So, what does this season of my life look like? Much more, I guess you could say, contemplative. Much more, what have I got to this point? I don't have much time to kind of do something more? And it's for youthfulness. I call, the 30s and 40s kind of like a youthful time in your life. It's almost like one day I will. And when you're post 50, it's kind of like that day is here. And no more one day I wills. It's put up or shut up time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the time when a lot of folks my age, you kind of venture into grumpy old man territory where you don't have much time for nonsense. BS. You want to get to the brass tacks of things. And so you become a little bit less patient with the nonsense of life. And it's tough to set that aside and remain a good, empathetic, kind person at the same time. Let people know, like, let's go. Come on, chop chop. No more pointless meetings. And I am a self-employed person, so I can kind of say that to folks like, no, we don't need to have a meeting on this. An email's fine. Before it was just like you kind of put up with that in the corporate world. That was kind of your thing because that's just what you did and they set the rules. But now as a grumpy 50 plus year old entrepreneur, I'm like, no, we're not doing that. I think that theme kind of carries over to other parts of my life. So my new season is grateful because I have seen plenty of people in my age bracket who aren't doing nearly as well as I am health-wise, financially, and otherwise. So I am very lucky and blessed to be where I am in life right now. But I also recognize that this could go south in a hurry. There's a lot of things that could go wrong, and I still got a lot of work to do. And with this Help for Men thing, that takes a lot of my time, a lot of my effort. And I am one of those guys that was married, divorced, and remarried, which means my oldest is 22 years of age and my youngest is 4. So I'm doing the relatively new dad thing all over again and dealing with I guess she's out of toddler phase now. Is there officially an age where you're no longer a toddler? She's not a toddler. She's going into kindergarten here soon.
Well,
She'll
definitely
be
not a
5
newborn,
here.
at least.
No, she'll be a kindergartner here coming up next fall. So that's kind of a big thing. While my oldest is going to grad school. Just saying that out loud is insane. So that's where I'm at with my season. It's still very much like I think what a lot of people listening that are 50 plus will nod their head and say, I can totally see what he's saying. But at the same time, I still have one foot into young dad world. That's not right. Young in terms of their season, they being my daughter. But so it's interesting. I guess I have best of both worlds. It's one positive way of looking at it, but another way of looking at it is pretty damn stressful.
So I think in one sense, Ralph, it's almost like I get the vision of you like, during the day, getting your youngest ready for kindergarten, which I have fond memories of because I have twin daughters that just turned 9 recently. And so thinking of my wife and I when we would take our kids to separate classrooms before the doors open every school morning, because at kindergarten, you're not like able to just kind of walk from home to school by
Hmm.
themselves. You have to like escort them. And so I can see that potentially with you. And then in the evening time, you might come around and try to have a drink, have a and maybe accompany your oldest maybe
Mm.
to, well, you said grad school, so I guess I couldn't say frat party, but
They're out of state, so it's a matter of texting with them, and
is it
and
okay if I come around?
once in a blue moon, see them in person, kind of thing. That's another thing. As your kids get older, they go away.
Yeah.
I got my next youngest one is 14,
Oh,
going on 15 here soon, and he's already started the I'm hanging out with friends. See you later. And then 4 hours later, I'm like, "Oh, I hope he's okay. I haven't
yeah.
seen him in a while. That comes pretty fast for all you parents out there that are with young kids. Enjoy it while you can.
No, I feel like I'm at halftime right now. Like when the girls turned 9, Ralph, I was like, "Oh, we got 9 more years left. There's no more
Hmm.
kids beyond these 2."
And it goes
And
so fast, so
and I was
fast.
just like, "Okay." Like you said, and like embrace, enjoy every little bit of it. And I think the other part of it too, that I appreciate what you just shared earlier, Ralph. I think that when you're thinking about 50 and beyond, and people often want to think it's like that's when you enter that grumpy old man, like, "Get off my lawn," sort of
Hmm.
stage off the porch. But I also think about it from the standpoint of, from your experience, like now self-employed, like you said before, you can pretty much dictate how your schedule goes. But you also have quite a bit of experience where at 50, you look at things a lot differently as far as work wise versus when you were 25.
Hmm.
25, a lot of things came new to you versus now it's like, look, I've seen this movie before. We can get this taken care of in like a short 2-paragraph email. We don't need a 30-minute meeting for this. And that, I think people would say, you know, I have some reminder of it. And I think if maybe if you grew your hair, you probably have a reminder of it too. physical signs of wisdom at this point, you know?
I can't grow hair for what it's worth.
Oh, okay. So I was like, I don't know. It's just like,
I can over here, but not so much here. This is, the old clown looking thing. But yeah, you nailed it. You're exactly right.
so
So, mhm.
when you think about midlife, and I often characterize it between 35 to 55 years old. So I think you and I are square in it. Um, for you personally, when did you first realize that something had shifted within you?
I don't know. Well, there are some really obvious signs of aging within a person. And in me, I've always been relatively youthful in mind. I've always been, I know it's so funny. I was talking to somebody the other day and they were talking about me and my very stoic nature, my very unrattled, calm nature. And I had to laugh because I've always been a real goofy SOB my whole life. I was voted class clown when I was a kid in elementary school as well as high school. So obviously I was the goofy kid. I was the one that made everybody laugh. So that was kind of my brand, my shtick. So I've always kind of carried that throughout all of my adulthood. But it's not until my body, which by the way, I've always been also very physically active, working out in the gym, playing basketball, that kind of thing, consistently all through my life. And then in the last several years, my body's been like, no, we, we, we don't do that anymore. And, I play basketball and then the next day I'm like, ow, why is my hips hurting? Both my knees are hurt. This is new. I must have done something wrong. And then you feel better and like, all right, back at it again. Okay, ow, ow. I just did it again. What is going on? And then you realize, oh, dummy, back then when I started hurting, I think I was like around 47 years of age is when everything started hurting in me. Shoulders are bad, knees are bad, just everything started shutting down. And I'm the type that gets really, when I research stuff, I really get into stuff and really research it. So you really research health and fitness and everything else. And it's interesting. The science shows us that you don't gradually, slowly but surely age. It goes along coasts and then you hit certain milestones and everything just goes and just falls. And then you coast and then it goes, so there's major dips at some point. And I think around 47 years of age, I hit one of those physical dips and everything genetically just said, shut it down. And I'm like, no, not so fast. So, but it's sad because your brain and everything is like, yeah, kid, let's play some basketball. Let's go out, let's play 3 games of one-on-one. And then by game 2, I'm like, I don't know if I could do this anymore. And then
Mm-hmm.
lifting weights, I used to grab at my strongest, like the 120-pound dumbbells. I'd look at those and laugh like, are you kidding me? I'll stick with the 60s now. I mean, that's a major drop down, but my body's like, you're good here, dude. This is fine. And so you kind of have to resign yourself to, I think the gym is a perfect analogy for you kind of resign yourself to when enough is enough, when you're fine with just the 60 pounds, when you're fine with just making X number of dollars, when you're fine with living in such a big size of a house or whatever it is, and you realize all that other stuff is just for what exactly? I was pressing 120-pound dumbbells and in shoulder press. Why? Who was I trying to impress? What was I trying to accomplish? Was anybody around me going, "Yay, Ralph"? No. It was just me and my ego. And in the process, I have 2 shoulders that I can barely raise my hands over my head because they hurt so bad. And I can't hang a picture up on the wall without saying, "Ow, ow, ow." But hey, I have that distant memory of pressing 120-pound dumbbells. Yay me. It's almost like I wish somebody at a young age would have put their arm around me and said, "Ralph, stop it. Just put those down. You're good. You're not Mr. Universe. What are you trying to do? You're trying to set a record or something." It's that ego stuff. Just that ego stuff as a young person really gets you in trouble.
There's so much in what you just shared that I want to like dig deeper on, partly because of your extensive work with men that I would imagine are not so much young men, but
Mm.
probably men like us.
30 up to 70 some year olds. Yeah.
As somebody that used to frequent the weight room, and I used to very much hold myself to a certain standard or a PR in terms of
Hmm.
either how much weight I can put on or how many reps
Hmm.
or how long I could stay in the room. Or what I used to do in college is, oh, I can do 2 hours of lifting and then 1 hour on the elliptical. But now it's like, to your point, what I love so much, you said, yay, I could do 120 pounds. And the first thought I had for myself was like, you know, it's so funny. Like we put so much emphasis on lifting as much as we can, but we have to come back the next day or two to kind of keep ourselves in that same sort of physique after doing that, because it would have been great if we could lift those 120s and be like, okay, Ralph, you're set for like the next month. Like your chest is just on and popping. It's just, you're good to go. Not, nope, you got to come back. Otherwise, as you said before.
I saw somebody on the internet one time said, what are your actual goals in the gym? And they said to look like my immediate post workout pumped self on a regular basis, so that we all know at the gym when you come back and go, whoa, look at me, huh? This is nice. He's like, I want to look like that consistently. That's what his goal was. So we can all get that.
No, it's just, I get it. And I think it gets to like this point. I love to get your perspective on, Ralph. Like, I think you hit on it. I think, especially for men, because we don't often like to talk about these things. We often want to come off as we are Mr. Invincible. We are the superheroes that we go to the movies to see. There's no sort of thing of aging for us. We are just forever Spartans, right? And I think that same sense with regard to whether it's ego, comparison, even identity in terms of how you measure yourself, like you said before, whether it's how much weight you can curl, how many zeros are in your bank account, how many dates you can have. It seems like there's like a numbers game to it. And yet, probably, I would think one of the biggest shifts that people have to come to grips with, especially men, is when you can't keep racking numbers like that, like you used to. You can't go 4 or 5 hours in the gym, back and forth, playground basketball games. Right? At some point, you got to sit down, but it's a lot earlier. How did you reconcile with that sort of realization that something that used to be the thing doesn't work as much? And curious, how have you seen it with other men you've worked with in this age?
It's funny you mentioned. Well, you know what first comes to mind. Not to be too crass with this, is you're also pointing out something that's really common in men as we age is the effects in the bedroom. So you may have a guy that says, I used to be Mr. Stallion and able to do fill in the blank for so many hours and whatever of the time. And now it's just like, maybe I need a little pharmaceutical aid to get that done. Maybe I need to, no, wife, give me a few days, not just a few hours or a few minutes, check with me again Wednesday. That's a major blow to the male ego. So much so that we have, let's be honest here. The aging thing doesn't affect us men nearly as drastically as it does the poor ladies in our lives. The poor ladies in our lives have to deal with something called menopause and so forth. So we can't fathom the effects of that as men. In the meantime, we have men that I know, for example, I had an uncle who fathered a child when he was in his 60s. So that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
But Uncle Mario from Spain, that was my uncle, he would probably tell you, back then he has since passed on, he'd probably say, even with that, I'm still not the guy I was when I was 40, trust me. But I think we look at like the Uncle Marios of the world and stuff as, was he fathering a child with a younger woman like that at an old advanced age? Was that kind of one last look at me, I still got it type of thing? I think there's something to that. I think there is.
Mm-hmm.
And we see guys injecting testosterone and growth hormone and still hitting the gym with vigor. I see 70-some-year-olds in the gym that I go, oh, wow, look at him. Still looking good. So while much is said about women and their proclivity for cosmetic procedures, I mean, they'll go under the knife to look 10 years younger, and they'll spend tens of thousands of dollars to do that. We men have our own little version of it as well. We all want to cling to youth. Now, what have I done to kind of reconcile? I don't know that I have, to be quite honest with you. Still a work in progress. I've always, prided myself on being Mr. Youthful. I was for many years Mr. Babyface, where people would say, "Oh wow, you're 41. You look like you're 28." I was that guy. And then again, something happened, and the body said it's time to catch up with the rest of them. Like I have yet. When I tell people I'm 50, it used to be when I tell people I'm 40, they go, looking good. Now, when I tell people I'm 50, they just go, huh. That's about it.
That's it. That's all you can say.
Oh. So you realize, yeah, I'm officially a 50-year-old man now. So I'm still getting used to it. Still getting used to that transition. And there's a part of you alluded to it, where we are very competitive as men, keeping score. Men seem to be very sensitive to the old hierarchical nature of human beings. You get like a pack of males, not even men, boys, teens, older men together, groups, and you'll watch, and they will kind of feel each other out, and they will determine which one is the pack leader, and which one is his lackey, and which one at the bottom of the pack. Every time you just put a bunch of boys together, leave them in there for an hour in a room playing together, and you come back and one of them's in the lead, and the rest follow, kind of thing. It's just funny how that works. Women don't seem to be as sensitive to that, and in fact, they laugh at us for like, oh gosh, guys in their little, dumb hierarchies, and they're always trying to outboss each other, and we get in fights and we get in physical conflicts to try and prove who's who. And we do that to ourselves as well. We try to always prove to ourselves, like, no, gosh darn it, I'm the leader of me in my life. And for me, back to the dumb little gym analogy, to resign myself to lower weights, there's still a big part of me that says, you loser, you wuss. Just because you're 50, why to pick up the 70s? Try it out, man. It's not going to hurt you. And I do it. And I pay for it the next day. Everything hurts. And so now my workout routine, and I try to remedy this by, we're talking a lot of gym today, but I think it's a perfect little analogy for all this. Remedy this by extended stretching, and going through a lot of, what do you call it, like motion work with the hips and the joints and everything else. It's like 30 minutes of that before I even touch a weight. So I have to go through a whole little routine to get on the floor and flop all over the place and do this yoga thing and that thing and this stretch thing. Never ever did any of that before. So that's my way of kind of reconciling with, I'll still do all the workout and lifting the weights. Sure, not as much as I used to, but I got to do all this stuff ahead of time. And some people may look at that and kind of smirk and go, just give it up, dude. But no, scientifically, it's very healthy to do resistance exercise well into your 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond if you want to be mobile. So I recognize that. And, but yeah, there's still a part of me that's fighting against myself, the little hierarchy amongst myself of still want to be young Ralph somewhat, still want to be me. I mean, that's been an integral part of who I am, the physical stuff, for so many years. I'm not going to just give it up like that and go, oh, well, I'm old. I think that is kind of a loser mentality of, oh, well, I'm old. That's not good. You still got to fight, but it's that, how much exactly? Like with everything else in life, it's this delicate balancing act of too much, too little.
Yeah. It's one of those things I think about, like, even if I go downstairs and I'll see like my fitness room, it's not a fitness room the way I would describe it like 20 years ago. It literally has a stationary indoor bike, 2 35-pound dumbbells, and YouTube for me to watch and keep my attention while I do this, because I can't sit there and be on a playlist of like heavy metal music to just get me through it with such intensity and adrenaline and testosterone. It's like, no, I need to multitask in that sort. But I think about it from the standpoint from you're saying, Ralph, and yes, we were using gym as an analogy because a lot of us men, we measure ourselves physically. Can I lift more than 35-pound weights when doing curls? Absolutely. I definitely did when I was younger. Do I sometimes look at it in the sense of saying, like, am I lacking here? Sometimes. But I think there was a shift that I had to make, which I think probably was someone with you, where it's like, we're entering a different phase, a different stage of life where, like, what used to be really important for me has changed. And now with kids, and I'm sure you can resonate with this with a 4-year-old, part of my motivation was, as a dad, is like, I want to be able to go up the stairs and not be out of breath by the time I got up to the top. I have 2 9-year-olds, so they're getting up on weight, not like, issues with like, eating too much of this, or they're just growing. And if one of them wants to hop on my back, let alone 2 of them, I don't want to like completely collapse or feel like I could still play with them and that sort of thing. Um, but those are completely different goals where like 20 years ago is like more like, hey, when I get outside and I want to like wear a tank top or be no shirt at all, I want attention. I want eyes, like I want people to know. And it's just different now. And I don't know if it was the case with you, Ralph, but was there something that was like the biggest surprise for you in midlife where something that just was a change you didn't think was going to happen, but you know, it just we realized something was different how we roll now.
No, not really so much of a "oh, wow" type of surprise, but maybe a more pleasant surprise of the, calmness and assuredness and, confidence that I never had as a young man. I was from a very young age, I was very insecure, very anxious, filled with a lot of anxiety, very unsure of myself, and probably I didn't ever see myself as the guy that was standing in front of a room full of people or getting online and literally talking to millions of people. I mean, I never would have imagined that. But I've done that enough times, I've gotten my reps in, so to speak, that it's not a big thing anymore, and that is carried over into all my personal interactions with people. I'm the type that now, I've kind of morphed myself into the type that if I'm walking through a parking lot and I'll see a cool car, I will talk to the guy who's got the cool car, and I'll just randomly go, "Is this the new Corvette? Tell me about it. Like, how many horsepower does this have?" Before I would be too insecure to even approach a stranger like that. So probably if 30-year-old me could see me now, I'd probably be like, "Wow, I didn't see that coming." That's that new version of Ralph. And that really, again, putting the reps in, to use the
Mhm.
old sports term. And that's where I got that. I remember here recently, my wife was at her office and somebody was watching one of my videos online and they go, "This is your husband, isn't it?" She's like, "Yep, that's him." And she says, It's so weird hearing your voice in the background at the office while she's a doctor at a hospital." And she goes, "And the nurses are sitting there watching you. It's so weird hearing your voice and they're sitting around watching you." And my wife said, we were sitting around watching this, and she said, "You were really smooth." She said, you were in an interview with somebody or something in this video, and you were talking about divorce or something." She goes, "You're really, really good at that." And, I was like, "Well, yeah, but that's not because I've had any kind of formal training. You just missed the 800 previous times where I wasn't nearly as smooth and I was stiff and I looked scared and it was funny when I first started this, I looked angry. That was my nerves. I was just this through all of my talking. And my wife initially said, "You look like you're pissed." I was like, "Yeah, well, it's just I'm nervous." And now not so much. I'm much more light, but again, it comes with time. So that's probably, I guess, pat on my back of a far more confident person than I thought I would be.
Mhm. Was there anything about midlife for you where it forced you to stop ignoring something in particular? And if so, what changed once you paid more attention to it? Whether it was health or something completely
Mhm.
different for you?
Well, I will take this in a direction that you're probably not expecting this, but the genesis of my whole thing, my whole business, my whole brand was I went through a major life transformation about 14 years ago. So it was in the little midlife time of when I discovered that my ex-wife was having an affair, and that led to the end of the marriage, and that led me to suddenly going from boring schlub of a father of three little kids, nothing really exciting to write home about, nothing bad either, just meh kind of life, to suddenly going, "You can't sleep on the job anymore, dude. Now you're a single father to three little kids. Now you're starting over everything. Now you need more money because over half your income just went out the door. Now you need to be basically a mom and dad to those three little kids because I had them most of the time." And it was a major, oh wow, moment for me of I can't go through life coasting as I was doing before. And as
Mm,
most people that go through such a moment will tell you, it is your rock bottom. Holy crap, it doesn't get any worse than this moment. But after years of processing it and going through the growth that happens from that, hopefully, knock on wood, everyone says the same thing. I'm kind of glad I went through something like that because it really woke me up to a lot of deficiencies in my life. It woke me up to me not appreciating things. It woke me up to me not paying attention to the bad things. and saying, "Oh, let's look at the red flags and let's act on them now," instead of just sweeping them under the rug year after year. Don't do that anymore. So, if anything, I'm a little bit more hypersensitive to the bad things when they come around. I go, "Whoa, pay attention to this." It helps that I teach that kind of stuff to guys every single day. So I'm very hypersensitive to all that. So, yeah, that was my metamorphosis, and that was my major wake up there.
See, this is really interesting because I was going to go somewhere with this question, but now I have like a two-way. You choose which route you want to go with because
No,
yes,
choose
you
your own
threw me
adventure.
on a for lack of a better word, a blind side on that one. I wasn't expecting that one.
Hmm.
So I want to return that favor to you. Feel free to choose which path you want to go on this one, Ralph. I think what goes off in my head is there's so much talk about single mothers. I was raised by a single mother.
Hmm.
You don't get exposure to single dads. And that is a reality for a lot of people. Case in point here, and what that looks like. And for men in particular, how do you go about that? Because I think on one end, what happened with you and your wife, is this something that you felt like, hey, we got 3 kids, let's just stick it out, at least for the kids. We'll deal with what we have to deal with and just keep pushing forward? Or what you did and say, listen, I wasn't expecting this, but now I need to, for lack of a better word, man up
Hmm.
and say, hey, the situation has changed. And with that situation being changed, I still got to account for 3 young ones that are dependent on me to provide and take care of them in this new situation I wasn't anticipating.
Hmm.
My question for you is, what do you think it would have cost you if you did one of the following? If you had stayed in that relationship for the sake of the kids, because maybe out of fear of like, oh my gosh, this is such an unknown if I were to be by myself and take care of kids on my own. Or two, if you went about what you did, but you didn't have that like fire burning up under you moment where you say, hey, something's got to change. I wasn't anticipating this, but you know what? Hey, I got to change because these kids are dependent on me. If you had not had that moment,
Hmm.
what life could have been like for you? What could it cost you in that sense if you didn't have made that change you did?
It's an excellent question. No one's ever asked me that before. So let's be fully transparent here and be honest. The how it went down was the discovery of the affair, followed by a lot of groveling by yours truly. When you talk to the majority of, like, if I were to go out in the street and go, "Sir, are you married?" Yes. Let's pretend and say that you discovered that your wife is cheating on you. What would you do? 9 times out of 10, you hear some variation of, "I'd probably divorce her. I'd probably throw her everything she has out in the front yard. I'd probably tell everyone I know, blah, blah, really vindictive, get at her, blah." But I'll tell you what, the 9 out of 10 guys say that, but 9 out of 10 men, when it really hits them and when it really happens, their first reaction is, "Can we talk about this? Can we not throw away this marriage, please? We got kids. We got all this. Can we not work through this? What are you doing? I can't believe you did this, but I'm willing to stay if you're willing to work on it, wife." That's what most men do. And that's what I did. I was really caught off. I mean, dude, it was, here's how especially bad my flavor of this was. I was on vacation in Florida with my wife and 3 kids when I discovered the affair. On day one of a 5-day vacation, no less. Opened up the laptop and there was a conversation. She had left herself logged in. By the way, I hear some version of this all the time. The cheaters, they're really dumb when it comes to this stuff. You have to think there's some kind of subconscious thing of, I want to get caught. But
They
usually what you
always
hear,
they always say too, Ralph, it's like it's the guys that are dumb about this. We leave all our traps. They
oh
never
no.
talk about like it could be the other side.
Oh, absolutely. Of course, I hear from the other side. The gender's flipped all the time. That's who I talk to. But yeah, usually it's the that whole Apple ecosystem of your text messages get mirrored to your iPad, get mirrored to your. That's what we hear a lot of. But for me, it was just Facebook was open and logged in, and the little messenger thing was up, and I'm like, "What is this? What's going on? What does this message mean? Why is she talking to this guy?" And I'm like,
What's
"Oh,
that for?
oh,
What?
okay." Yeah, and well, it was enough of what she was doing was she was deleting as she was going, which is a common thing. So I would just see a few sentences, but it was enough to see like something's up here. At least it's inappropriate conversation with the person of the opposite sex while she's married. That alone is bad. So that's what I went with. And what is really common in these situations is to hear, oh, no, it's not what you think. It's bad, but it's just a little bad. It's not the full blown bad. We call this trickle truthing. You get a little bit of trickling of the truth at a time. And eventually the whole truth comes out. And it came out a couple of weeks after that. So it was enough for me to go, something's wrong here. And then a couple of weeks later, oh no. And then that's when she said, I'm out of here. And 60 days later, we weren't a couple anymore. That's how long it took in the state we were in at the time. So what a royal mind F, as we say, to go from I was this and suddenly I'm not anymore. And that was an extremely tough thing for me to cope with at the time. I really didn't know how to cope with it at the time. I had no experience in this. I didn't know anybody who had been through this. A man, ironically, I had known women who'd been cheated on. Sure. I remember when I was a kid, one of my teachers discovered that her husband had an entire other family. So, I was exposed to it at least at some level, and I knew some people cheated. I knew people cheated, obviously, but none of my guy friends, wives, girlfriends, or whatever. So anyway, brand new to me. But what if she had said, okay, let's work on this. Let's go down that route. Is it possible for us to have then in turn reconciled and became, number one, a stronger couple, but more importantly, two stronger individuals? I think that's possible, certainly. But from what I've seen in my little world, not probable. And not likely, unfortunately, for you guys out there that are pining for reconciliation and crossing your fingers and praying like hell that you can make this work. Been there, done that. But statistically, from what I've seen, now we have some people that will be like, well, they'll show some stats of like, no, there's a good sizable portion that remain married. Yeah, but that's not happy necessarily. And that's not necessarily two people really working on themselves. Ideally, what you want is for the cheater to be like, I got some problems, obviously. Something's going on with me that would cause me to do something like this. I need to get to the bottom of it. I need to work on it. I need to go talk to somebody. Please be patient with me as I go through this. I understand what you're going through and I hurt you. And I understand if you want to leave me and what I did was very selfish, has nothing to do with you. It's all me. That's very rare. Usually it's you. It's usually, I don't know what I want to do. I'm caught in a state of limbo. But so let's pretend that that's all gone and we stayed and worked on each other. I can't imagine. It's just that I'm such a wildly different person now. Our relationship, like most such relationships, was founded on what? Insecurity. I was a very insecure man. I already talked about that earlier. And she, was a very insecure woman in her own way. And so when two insecure people get together and they try to make it work and they try to shoehorn themselves into a relationship and have kids and let's make this as normal as we can, and we both bring our dysfunction into the relationship, just chaos ensues. And that's what happened. Can we just erase all that background and all the stuff that we brought to the table? No, it doesn't work that way. You're always going to have that. So the work is doubly, triply, quadruply hard to, number one, let's stay together. That's like the easy part. You just don't leave. And then, okay, you cheater person need to set aside outside relationships. That's tough, especially when they're so insecure that they need a lot of outside validation. They need a lot of people telling them, giving them attention. They don't know how to sit still on their own feelings. So they outsource that to other people. That's not good. Somebody who has maybe issues of past sexual abuse or something like that manifests itself in a lot of not so nice ways down the line. Not their fault unless they work on it and they recognize what it is they need to do, which is relatively rare. So could I be the Ralph I am today if I had stayed in that relationship? I can with 100% certainty say, oh, heck no, there's just no way. Because it wasn't such a simple thing of cheating, this happened. And before that, everything was just great. No, not at all. That was just the tip of the iceberg of stuff. I brought all kinds of dysfunction from my childhood and so forth. She brought a whole heaping truckload of hers. And that was just the little thing that finally the straw that broke the camel's back. So just because that little straw goes away doesn't mean I don't have all the other issues. So I don't think we would have been able to make it work. And eventually the relationship would have ended in one way or another. Let's just put it that way. There's a part of me that is thankful for her doing what she did. What she did was awful, terrible, and it hurt a lot of people, my kids included. But she ripped the Band-Aid, so to speak. Instead of slowly but surely going away, whatever, she's just like, dude, rip the Band-Aid. And she goes, get out of here, beat it. It's almost like I'm no good for you. Get out of here. And part of me is thankful for that.
That's a way of taking that. That's very interesting perspective. So when you think about where things are post that change, you mustered up enough courage and, for lack of a better word, gall within you to say, listen, my kids deserve the best out of me. We need to figure out how to make this work and that sort. Um, whether it was during that period of time or even now, what are some of the beliefs, some of the habits, some of the rhythms of yours now that since then, since midlife for you as a whole, have now become non-negotiable for you?
In terms of just my new life, what's
Yep.
non-negotiable for me, and Ralph 2.0, if you will.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, what is non-negotiable is, it sounds very cliched, but there's a lot of good stuff behind this term. Self-care, which is another way of just taking care of yourself. That is something I did zero of previously. I had hobbies, but nothing big. Just dip your toe every now and then into it, kind of hobbies and interests and so forth. But Ralph, you need to take care of your physical health. There was a period in my life where I was married with 3 little kids where I just said, I can't do that right now. Let's just stop that. So months would go by of no gym. It's what it is. Everything was kind of under the umbrella of um, super selflessness in honor of the family unit and the kids and so forth. So that's very easy to do. I can't. I got kids, man. I can't go to take the night class to get my degree or whatever. I got the kids. I can't go to the gym and work on my body and eat right and everything else. I'm driving these kids all over the place. We just stop at McDonald's and get a number 2 meal or whatever. That's just what you do. I recognize now that you can't do that, man. And you're setting a bad example for the kids. And it does nothing but I lost my father. He passed away at a young age of heart disease. And so he was a chain smoker. He was ate a lot of junk food kind of guy. You saw the Hostess cupcake wrappers in the truck all the time. Instead, one of those, he'd stop at the gas station, fill up the gas, go inside, get a couple of ring dings or whatever the heck they were called. He was one of those guys, and he always battled with his weight. He was in the military, so he always had to, I remember, work extra hard to make weight and stuff like that. So I learned from that, like, no, can't ignore your health, and you certainly can't do what he did, which was overt things to harm his health. So I'll never go in that direction again, for sure. And taking time out for your mental health is huge, meaning not being afraid to raise your hand to say help when you need it. And hence why I created our men's group, the Brotherhood, we call it, at helpformen.com. That is for men who don't have that in their lives, which, from I've learned, is the vast majority of you guys out there listening to this right now. Most men don't have other men in their lives. And that was I always knew I was somewhat of an introvert and loner. Funny, not in young age, high school, college, always hanging out with people. But after that, after I had wife and kids, I became very, what's the word? Yeah, very introvert, a lot of solitude there. And I went to a therapist after the divorce, and she said, you're like a lot of guys, basically like every guy that I talk to. You don't have friends. And she's like, you have like casual acquaintances, but you don't hang out with anybody. You guys just take care of your kids and go to work, and that's it. And she says, the women, on the other hand, they have huge networks of people. And then she's like, I got a guy I want you to talk to. He's one of my other clients. I was telling him your story. He's like, connect me with this guy. Give him my number. Here you go. Because your stories are so similar. Here you go. And that sent me on my way of, oh, wow, I'm not alone, number one. I had no idea. I thought I was so alone in all this. And number two, there's value in talking to other men about this. When you hang up after talking to him for like 3 hours, the first phone call, you just feel like alive. And Mother Nature has engineered us to be in community and talk to others and let some steam out and share back and forth. And you get the old serotonin going and the dopamine and the endorphins. It all works in one. And when you're laughing, and then you just, like, that was the missing piece. I hadn't had that for years. That was huge. So Ralph, just set aside your men's group and don't talk to other guys. No, I recognize I literally need that. So if I don't exercise, like I go on vacation somewhere and our days are just packed, thank you to my wife, with activities.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't have time to hit the gym and pump iron and stuff. I don't feel right. I feel weird. I feel anxiousy and yucky. That's my body saying, you're supposed to be doing something, man. We're supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
pushing and pulling things and exerting yourself and breaking a sweat. So I recognize, wifey, I gotta go do this thing. I'll be at the gym. That's just part of my rhythm now. And she knows that. And to the point where if I am not there, she's like, aren't you going to the gym or something? Or it's like, yeah, I'm going at 5. Don't worry, I'm going. So that's something else I'm never going back to. So community is super important. Asking for help, taking care of my physical health.
Absolutely. No, I think that definitely will hit a nerve for sure, Ralph, for a lot of men. Um, like I felt like you stubbed my toe on that one. It's like, oh, you're right. You
Mm-hmm.
know, when you get to a point where it's for a lot of men, you're like, hey, I got to take care of my family. They come first. Oftentimes, what that can lead to is you don't take care of yourself to the very end when you have what little energy is left. And
Mm-hmm.
then, two, to your point, our sense of community oftentimes nowadays could be football season, another sports season. But instead of it's like other guys together, it might just be you and the TV.
Mm.
Or you get around guys, and to your point, it becomes more surface level that you just talk about sports.
Yeah.
Oh, I like basketball too. I like basketball too. Oh, that's great. We should probably play basketball together. Then you get on the court. You only last 30 minutes, both of you. Oh, I wonder what we should do now. You know,
Do you want to talk about life? Do you want to talk about relationships? No one ever does that. No,
that seems
it's very
weird.
superficial stuff. Yeah. I mean, when I went through what I did with the divorce and told my closest buddies about this, the majority, and it's no fault of theirs, they're not jerks or whatever, but the majority didn't really know what to do with that information. They didn't know how to process that. And there's a lot of wide-eyed stares as they sip their beer and basically like, man, that sucks. The end. That's about it. And I had one
Thank you
friend,
for your
Chris.
compassion, sir.
I had one friend, Chris, who admitted to me, I'm not going to lie to you. I Googled, how do you react when your friend says da da da? And I was like, that's fine. I get it. I'd probably do the same thing. They just had no point of reference. They're like, I've never dealt with this. I know anybody, I don't think, who's dealt with this. I'm like, well, I probably have. They just been quiet about it, which is another thing. Every now and then I would hear from somebody go, yeah, me and my wife went through something similar to that. And I'm like, Sally? Really? Uh-huh. Where she was the one? I don't want to talk about it. It's like, oh, okay. Well, so
Okay,
it's
all
out
right.
there. But again, even for those guys that have been through it, when you got those kind of superficial relationships where you talk about the sports, you talk about your kids, whatever, it's kind of a verboten thing. We don't go that deep into that conversation unless you're in a room full of people where the express purpose of being there is to talk about that and that kind of stuff. And then the floodgates open because the men feel all safe. They all look around going, other dudes here to talk about this stuff. Here's my deepest, darkest secrets.
Mm-hmm.
Here's everything that happened to me in the past. It's very embarrassing. Here's what I'm going through now, which was really embarrassing. And then they wince and wait for the response. And the response is, me too. Been there, done that, man. I was there last year, the exact same thing. And there's like, wow. But what's extra sad about that is if you bring a woman into the room, by the way, I've shut it down. I have literally seen a room full of men, not bawling their eyes out, but solemn because they're listening to a presentation about childhood abuse or something. And we did this in one of our annual conferences. And then one of our presenters was a woman. And she walked in the room and sit up straight, wiped their eyes, nothing to see here. And I was like, wow. And it's no slam against her. They didn't know her from Adam. It was just that a conditioning, I guess you could say, of years and years of learning. The ladies in our lives don't handle this kind of stuff too well. They don't like to see that out of us. And I'm going to pick on ladies a little bit. They can do better. There is an army of women out there telling men, you need to open up more. You need to be more vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
I need to see the softer side of you. And I agree, ladies, he absolutely should. But ladies, you have to be receptive to it. You can't get defensive as soon as he opens up about something, even
Mm-hmm.
if that something means that he's picking on you a little bit because you're not perfect. You could be doing something wrong. Don't lash out on him. Don't do the old, don't touch me. I need time to process this. Leave me alone. And then don't sleep with him for the next 3 months. Men are very sensitive to that. We recognize when that happens and the message is clear. Oh, guess I don't bring that kind of stuff up to my wife anymore. One of the most glaringly, I'm sidetracking here, one of the most glaringly verboten topics in relationship world with men and women is, wife, I hate to say it, but ever since we had kids, I feel forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you don't talk to me anymore. We don't touch hardly at all anymore. We don't ever, you and I as husband and wife just seem to be done. It just seems like you and I just work towards these kids. And anytime I try to steer you towards us again, you get very angry and defensive, and it bothers me. And the reaction for most women hearing that is, you big fat baby. It's like having another child.
Yeah.
Me. It's all about you. Just need. Leave me alone. And he's like, all right, I'm not going to open up about that again.
Yep.
That's not good. Ladies need to be receptive to it and say, I understand. I get where you're coming from. That's not my intent. I'm just overwhelmed with the kids and everything else, but I will do a better job of, let's go on date nights every Friday. That's an adult response to that. To say otherwise to me is pretty bad.
Yeah.
And that's what the majority of men in those situations hear, because I talk to them all the time. That's a really common scenario.
Mm-hmm. So 2 things I pick up on that one, Ralph. Like, one, I agree with you. I can speak from personal experience, whether in my current marriage relationship or just in general with people. I pick up on cues from people that if I share something with you, for example, and I gather from your reaction that it's burdensome to you, or you don't take it in a way that's open. I feel like this is a safe space for me to be honest with you, 100% honest, brutally honest with you, that I can basically record that experience in my head mentally and say, I don't like how that went. Therefore, I will not share that type of information in the future. And then if something happens to say, Philip, how come you never talk about XYZ? I'd be like, you remember that time 4.5 months ago? I gave you that opportunity. I wasn't asking for perfection, but just that moment for me said to me, I knew what that reaction was. I knew how I felt about it. That experience sucked. And I do not want to revisit that. I've seen that movie. I do not want to see the sequel. Therefore, I choose not to disclose that sort of thing. And I think that is helpful for a lot of people, especially men that may be thinking something similar, because a lot of us are logical to think that way. It's just like, okay, we remember that. And it happens with women too. It's just like, you don't want to relive bad experiences. But especially when a lot of men are kind of growing up where they're supposed to, as they would say, not cry, not share emotions, not be vulnerable and honest. So it's already working a lot out of it just to get to that point. If you can make it as receptive and as safe and as secure as a space, if someone could just be 100% honest with you, like that to me is intimacy, right? If you want more intimacy in the relationship, it's not about so much what happens in the bedroom. It also could happen what precedes it, which oftentimes if someone feels more connected with you, that they feel like they can truly be themselves, flaws and all, here it is. And it's still feeling welcomed and accepted and loved and cherished and encouraged. And like, you are still the man in my life. You are still the man in my relationship. You are still my husband. You're still my boyfriend, all this sort of thing. You are still the father of my kids. Man, that could be really helpful.
Know. Yeah. You're describing 2 very secure individuals. And insecurity comes in a lot of different forms, and we see it with a lot of women. And a lot of women will say it's kind of a manifestation of the patriarchy, is the current buzzword of meaning. The overall system of society is very man-centric. That's why the woman acts that way, because she's been trained to treat men poorly who emote and so forth. There may be some kernel of truth to that. There may be a biological component that women in general are kind of skeeved by weak, quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes here, men, which is a terrible term to use for that, or just a combination thereof. But whatever it is, it's one of those rise above moments. I mean, I think it's been kind of hammered into the heads of many sensitive, nice guys out there that you need to err more on the feminine side of things. You need to allow for her to emote. She's going to just empty on you, and you need to sit back and just go, "I hear you, dear. Yes, dear. Yep, that woman at work's a real. You know what? I hear you," and all those other things, and allow her to get it out, so to speak. That message hasn't necessarily come across on the other side of the aisle. And why that is, there's probably books written on the subject, but it all starts with the ladies. It's you got to know. I say the same thing to men. I have men that come to me going, I can't believe my wife just wants to talk incessantly about nonsense that I couldn't care less about. Why does she always do this? She knows it just wears me out, and I'm tired. I've been working 12 hours a day. The last thing I want to hear is about some stupid, she went shopping for a new rug and all this other stuff. And I'm like, dude, she's trying to connect with you. It's okay. It's not burdensome or whatever. That's just how she does that. Just like you do your thing, she does her thing. And all right, fine. And then the same kind of energy needs to go towards the ladies in that regard. And I think we'll all be better off. And again, we're all just talking about becoming more secure individuals. That's what we all want. And every man, I think, listening to you would agree with your sentiment there and exactly what it is we want. And we want to feel safe to do all of that. That's what they were talking about. Women say that often. I don't feel safe with you, husband. Some of the more silly but very real things is the woman will say, the reason I don't kiss you anymore is I don't feel safe doing so. Why is that? Because every time I go to give you a kiss on the cheek, you attack me in the kitchen, and you get your hands all over me, and you start taking it. You take it up a few hundred notches when we should just peck on the cheek and go about our way. I don't feel safe going there with you. You're like a spazzy teenager.
Mm-hmm.
She's got a point for a lot of you guys out there. That's a very real thing. And men will say the same thing. I don't feel safe opening it up to you because every time I do, you do this. You shut down the bedroom. You tell me to get away from you. You act like repulsed by me. You get weird about it. So I learned not to do that. Yep. So we're talking about two people that need to feel safe in their own way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so when you think about where things are for you now, Ralph, what does thriving look like for you now?
Oh, what's the old proverb? Learning to accept the things that you can't control and understand the power. That's thriving to me, is understanding all those little moments. Not losing sight of my kids who all have their own little life paths. I got one grad school, one is still in his undergrad, one in high school, and the little one going into kindergarten, and understanding and empathizing with all that's tough, man. All of them have their own little worlds that's going on. And then me trying to do what I'm doing with my work and trying to be a good husband at the same time. I would think thriving is balancing all of that without losing your marbles, balancing all that without losing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's, again, there goes that workhorse, plow horse mentality of the man to just doing all for everybody else, to heck with my health. Mm-hmm. Men hang their hat on that, it seems. Some men especially hang their hat on that culturally, that there is this. I remember growing up hearing stories of great grandpa so-and-so and how he would just work himself to death, even though his knees were basically worn down to dust. But he would work the farm fields until sundown every night, and he'd get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and milk the cows, even though he had cancer. All these stories, we glorified the old plow horse of a guy who was doing everything in spite of all of his health and everything else. Don't want to go down that road. You're not good to anybody when you're like my father was dead when he was 53 years of age, for goodness sakes. That's way too young. Mm-hmm. But still, I hear those stories about old dad and all the work he did and everything else. And you just have to wince and go, no one says like, man, if he had just put the cigarettes down, man, if he had just stopped eating all that junk food, if he would just concentrate on himself more and listen to the doctors. He did it all. Extremely smart individual, very smart man. But he prided himself on Mr. Plowhorse. Mm-hmm. I got my little vices here. That's all I have is he drank coffee like it was going out of style. I mean, I never saw him without a cup of coffee in his hand. So massive amounts of caffeine combined with cigarettes, chain smoking cigarettes, his blood pressure. We saw the numbers. He kept that to himself, by the way. We saw the numbers in his little paperwork after he passed away. He had like stroke level blood pressure for years. Wow. And didn't do anything about it. And so not good. So I don't want to go down that path. That's what I see a lot of guys doing, unfortunately. So I'm thriving when I'm able to balance all of that, remain healthy, still be able to help others, and do what I love to do. I love doing what I do, helping out guys, help for men. I never in a million years thought I would do something like this. This is not in the cards at all for me, just a short 15 years ago. But here I am, and I love it.
Yeah, I'm thankful for that too, Ralph, because I know you said earlier about having like your rock bottom moment, which, it's tough when you experience it. I really resonate when you mentioned that. And then as you've gotten through it and seeing where it led you to here, you now look at it as like, almost like, thank God that happened. Weirdly
Mhm.
to say, because look at where it kind of helped me get to that I probably couldn't get to any other way. And so, as we conclude here today, I love to get your thoughts on, if there's someone watching or listening to our conversation now, and maybe they have a rock bottom moment, whether with regards to maybe their health or job or even a relationship. And they're trying to figure out how do they go about this new stage called midlife,
Mm.
maybe a change in identity, a change in focus, change in family, or just flat out just feeling like they're drifting or burning out. What would you want to say to that person, he or she? Um, what would you want to share with that person right now?
In broad terms, it is okay to ask for help, and that's something that men have a more difficult time than women do with. It's okay to raise your hand and go, I'm a little lost here. I'm a little burnt out. I'm a little tired. I just don't know where to go next. If you want to get better, which if you ask most men in those kind of circumstances, they do, simply because the pain is so acutely bad that they're experiencing now, whether it's I'm very anxious, I'm very worried about money, I'm very worried about the kids, or my marriage is failing or failed or whatever it is. I want the pain from all that to stop, please. Well, sure you can drink, not good. Sure you can take drugs, not good. You'll feel better, quote unquote, for a few minutes or whatever it is. But to expedite the process in a healthy way, it's to get help. And yes, we have a website and a men's group, helpformen.com. There are other resources out there for you for whatever your situation may be. But wherever it is, whatever avenue you take, it behooves you, and all your loved ones would agree to get help. And if you don't feel safe doing so with your immediate loved ones, that's understandable. A lot of guys are in that position, but there are groups outside of that world that can certainly help you. Just got to raise your hand. In other words, look for it. That's tough for a lot of guys to look for. It's tough for guys to look for friends. What am I supposed to do? Just go to the neighbor guy and go, hey, you want to hang out sometime? Yeah, that's what you do. That's how it works. I'm trying to remember the two my two closest friends, Matt and Dave. How did you get with them? I literally sat next to them at work. He's like, hey, you, let's want to go get lunch. Sure. That was the beginning of a close friendship that has endured 20 plus years. That's how it works. That's how it all starts. You got to start somewhere.
Hmm.
So ask for help. That's in broad terms there. In more detailed terms, I happen to have resources for guys. Helpformen.com will show you everything along the lines of what you were talking about. My latest book is right up your alley if that's kind of you're at that crossroad moment in life. It's called Rebuild, the complete guide to starting over as a man. And you can learn more at readrebuild.com. That's readrebuild.com. You can also get there through helpformen.com. It takes you to the same place. But that's a book all about that. For those guys that hit that holy poop moment in life and go, where do I go next? What do I do next? I'm questioning everything because now that this company's laid me off, this wife has divorced me, whatever it may be. I'm not, I was defined by what I did for those people, and now that's gone. I don't know where I'm supposed to go next. So that's all my resources. The Brotherhood. That's where you can get all my books at no additional charge there if you join the group, and a whole bunch of more stuff. So check it out at helpformen.com.
Excellent. Yeah, I guess that leads into my last question right there. Just for people that do want to follow you in your work, is there any other places that
Yeah.
they can connect with you after this conversation?
In addition to the website, a lot of people know me from a social media profile that I've been running for over a decade now called Dad Starting Over. And so you'll find me, my biggest channels, I guess you could say, are Facebook. I have 250-some thousand people that follow me on Facebook on there. It's pretty huge. YouTube, TikTok. Some people don't really know me by name, but they know me by the bald head yapping in their newsfeed because I come up quite a bit. If you're a guy looking at like relationship-oriented stuff and starting over, divorce, cheated on, dead bedroom stuff, I have probably come up on your little newsfeed, your algorithm there a time or two. So I've had some videos and stuff that have gone to the tens of millions. So it's gotten up there. But Dad Starting Over on all those channels. Give me a subscribe and like and follow. And there's a Dad Starting Over podcast. And yeah, would love to hear what you guys think about it. So give me a follow and a like or however it works wherever you're watching it.
Excellent. Well, Ralph, thanks so much for being a part of our conversation here. I think um, there's a lot of wisdom shared, whether it's gray hairs on top or not, on the sides or on top, all in all included. Listen, like for those who are watching or listening to us, let this be a lesson for sure. Like midlife comes with its rocky points, and
Mm,
hopefully you can learn from what Ralph shared that even if it hits a rock bottom, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the end. And so if there's something that Ralph shared here that really helped you look at things from a different perspective, maybe soften what you thought was hard and fast, not going to happen for me, or cause you to pay attention to something that you weren't thinking about before. Like, take the time to reflect on that, be in a safe space, whether it's you or like Ralph mentioned before, asking for help. Like, hey, I'm kind of feeling this sort of thing. Can you help me walk me through this, or just hear me out? Or maybe it might be within your relationship. Um, One way or the other way you're doing it yourself or with somebody else. That's where I feel like a lot of real change happens. Not from just urgently having to do something right then and there. It's just give yourself that space, give yourself that grace to be aware of what's happening and be courageous to ask for help if you need to. And so,
amen.
I think that with that being said, um, thanks so much for being a part of this podcast. And thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. It does come back to what I really come back to as well. Is just, midlife is worth living and worth living well. And so, for those who want to connect, learn more about Life After 40, you can head on over to our website at lifeafter40.com. You can also connect with me at philipblackett.com. And as I mentioned with Ralph, thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. We'll definitely have all your links included here for you to be able to connect with him. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. And if it helps any, feel free to share this episode with somebody that could really use a good listening to on this and really hear from Ralph that could be helpful for. So, with that being said, this is Life After 40 Conversations with Philip Blackett. Thanks again for everyone watching and listening in. Thank you, Ralph, of course, for being a part of our
Thank
conversation.
you.
And everyone, take care, and we'll see you in the next conversation. Bye for now.